No, I took all the information that Robert gave us and all of the suggestions, and I wrote this, made this into a step by step. Made sure that I was in each one of these parts of the trip. And it's the web page that I started out with, and I asked for all of the different information from each group. WorkbookLM. And I got a master plan. And the design was really able to tell me how I needed to put the whole process together. I had no idea. Golden blueprint. And once I knew the blueprint, and I just followed everything. Inside of here, I also had videos. Like here, this video.
If you try to feed a 300-page manuscript into an AI and ask it to redesign the entire book, the output usually falls apart. The formatting breaks, the tone shifts, and the text fills with hallucinations. Long-form content accurately, you need to break the job down into a 3-phase modular workflow. We process the manuscript one module at a time.
And so I followed the directions that each one of these was telling me. The next step was that once I had an idea of what I wanted to write about, then I decided the best thing to do was to go to Manus. Manus is very helpful in putting the first draft that I had, putting the first draft together. And I asked it very simply, can I give you a document and you give me suggestions how to improve it for a book in writing Human Evolution, the Age of AI? And it told me yes, it could. Yes, it would. And then I started giving the basics. I got all the basics by doing a search in Google search relative to the goal that I wanted. Relative search. Then I went on to the next phase, taking the information that I needed, put it into another document. Then I told ChatGPT to, once I had the information, I said, now give me a level 3 prompt and tell me how I'm going to be able to put all this information together. And that's exactly what it did. Then it told me the chapters that I needed, the information for each section, you see. I didn't understand all of this. I had no idea. There's no way I could have put all, I mean, I could have as a professional writer, but it would have taken me months and probably years to put it all together. And each one of these searched out definitions, places, times, references. And once I had all of that information together, I put it into a PDF file. The only reason is that I'm getting ready to put it into Claude, which was the next step. And Claude eats up a lot of the usage available. So one thing you don't want to do with Claude is try to get it to do graphics. It'll make graphics, but it's best to add the graphics automatically to Claude. And I started out and says, I'm ready to start a new project. What do I need? It gave me a list of all the stuff that I need. What do I need to do? Following each one of the steps. And finally, I came up with this. I had graphics. I knew I got all of the graphics. I'll show you how I did the graphics through NotebookLM. And I put it all together. It knew what it was. And then I said, go ahead. And it asked me in details, things that I wanted it to be able to do. And then I was able to download all of the information When I looked at it, I decided page number is not correct. We went back and forth. It was a good conversation talking this whole thing through. I need to upload another document, running headers. So that way, by the time I finished, Claude knew what I was looking for. And I kept going back and forth. Of course, it eats up a lot of your usage, but that's all the reason that you do your homework first. And then finally, once I was able to do that, this is what it produced. Well, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it gave me what I needed. Then I had all the verbiage that is going to start taking place. You see? Nice directions, who's doing what to whom, telling me the figures that I can follow, all the description and the figures and so forth. And then I knew I was on the right track. But then from there on, it just required me to continue to explain more and more about what I wanted, how I wanted it to look. So in the next step, I decided then I'm going to get all of the corrections in Microsoft Word. If you look over here in Claude, it gives you options to use Claude to manually edit the document. And you just simply talk to it. You just go back and forth. And that back and forth will eventually give you everything that you need to know and make it correct the way that you want it. Then, once I took that information, I turned it into, just to make sure, I looked at it again. Of course, this is never expected what I'm showing you to be as correct as the ultimate. I'm showing you the process. And from there, I was able to get all of the information. It added up and it looked pretty good. So remember, I did this for each one of the sections. And some of this is premature to the final results, but I was able to get a lot of the basics all put together. Once I had it all put together, I went back to, Notebook, to Microsoft Word, because I'm familiar with Word and I was able to edit the document. The more I was able to edit it, the more I was able to make it look like it. And of course, at the same time, I kept going back to NotebookLM, and then just a few days ago. So then you see here I have all of these different sources, and these are all coming from the questions that were asked. And once I know exactly what it is, it gives me a very nicely detailed description, because what it's doing is also looking at other sources. All the questions are being answered more than I would have known to ask. Once I get all of that information, I just simply do a select all copy and copy it, and then paste it into text document. I'll open up text, start a new document, paste, select all copy, take all of that information, put it back into Word document. We're back in motion again. Then from there, as if you saw in the previous Word documents, then we turn that, we go back to Claude, and we tell it, please give me, and you talk to Claude, you say, now, here's the information, turn this into a nice Word document. And when we have all of the information, it goes through the process, it talks it through, and then you get a nice download. And you can download it as a complete HTML, because in the HTML, all the graphics that we created in the NotebookLM, each one of these, then we have a whole list of documents that we need, graphics and so forth. Okay, once we have the graphics, we need all of that, then everything works just fine. All right, so once I have all of that information, I take it, copy it, You can actually, there's different ways to select all, and you can copy all of that information, turn them into a document, literally. And then once I do that, now I have the graphics, now I have the text, and I go back to Claude one more time, and I say, please, Claude, I'm talking to you. What I need is to get all this information. Here's the data. Here's what I need. I'm going to give it to you. Here's the text. As you can see, I added a text to it. And then voila, it creates one more and it gives me the document that I'm looking for. Once I have that document in place, then I just recently, this is so wonderful. This is the kicker right here. I go back and I ask ChatGPT, how do I need this to turn into a final document. I need it to turn into a web page because now I have to begin to post. And I do the same thing with my exercise programs. This is where the rubber really hits the road. So at that point, I get a full-fledged document, including
Almost every major enterprise, cognitive output is
videos
skyrocketing, while the
that were all created in NotebookLM. All of the documentation, I have fields that are there that are in the steps that we are you going to use the same basics inside of the exercise programs. That's when we put it together, and then we do the same thing with the exercises. So the exercise program, here you have the exercises. These are all made in a matter of minutes using ChatGPT. In a matter of wonderful. You see? And that's it. From there on, I have to put it all together and organize it some more. And that's the end of how this process works. Thank you.
Human Evolution in the Age of AI, a digital companion for navigating your professional transformation and human capabilities, by Mark R. Bradley.
This book was made for you.